Our special guest today is the Chairman, President, and Executive Officer of TVI Pacific Incorporated, a publicly listed TSX Canadian mining company, successfully exploring and developing polymetallic properties in the Philippines. The company's first mine, Cabanatuan, is currently in production, producing copper and zinc concentrates. TVI also operates a wholly owned diamond drilling subsidiary operating in the Philippines. Our speaker is also chairman of TVI Resource Development Philippines, Inc., the Philippine affiliate company of TVI Pacific that is operating the Cabanatuan mines. Among TVI's projects in the Philippines are, first, the Cabanatuan Gold-Copper Project in Sitio Cabanatuan, Barangay Tabayo, Municipality of Siocon, Province of Zamboanga del Norte, and Balabag Gold and Silver Project in Bayog, Zamboanga del Sur. TVI Resource Development Philippines, Inc. is the Philippine affiliate of TVI Pacific, Inc., a publicly listed Canadian mining company focused on the exploration and production of precious and base metals from distinct large-scale system, high-margin projects located in the Philippines. TVIRD has assembled a team with exceptional skill in all aspects of mining and exploration and has acquired or applied for an impressive portfolio of properties in the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, I have known our speaker and his lovely wife Diane since the mid-90s. It was largely through his efforts that mining opportunities in the Philippines and the then new Mining Act of 1975 was introduced in PDAC, which is probably the largest mining conference in the world that's held in Toronto in March of every year. Our speaker is very timely because what is very topical at the moment is the conflict that the mining industry, face with the interference from local governments. So we have our speaker today who is going to explain to us, I hope, what is happening in that regard and update us on the latest with regard to these issues. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and join me, give a very warm welcome to a friend, and I must say a friend to the mining industry and a friend to the Philippines, Mr. Clifford James.
As I said, these are in the mining industry, to my way of thinking, they're troubled times for us. I don't mean just TVI. I'm talking about the whole industry. What I would normally do in a situation like this would be to give you here's what we're going to do talk, and here's where we've been, as a company. But because of the challenge that we face, I'm going to depart from that, and I'm really going to focus on the challenge. In doing so, I'm going to talk about the benefits, and the accomplishments, that we have achieved, with TVI here. Okay, this slide basically is a simple index slide showing, where we are. Our properties at this point in time are all located down in the Zamboanga Peninsula. And I've shown on this slide, I'm showing the boundaries, the Zamboanga Norte boundary, Sur, and Sibugay, and showing where our tenements are located. We've got a lot of tenements that are concentrated down in that area. We've got the Cabanatuan mine. We've also got the Balabag project, which is in pre-development stage, and we're looking to start real serious development on that, very quickly. The next slide basically shows the timeline. This is the timeline, for TVI in the Philippines. I first came to the Philippines looking for mining prospects in 1993, so it's 18 years ago, and a lot has happened. I went into the Cabanatuan property in the fall of 93, fall meaning October, and I went in there. It took me roughly from RT Lim, it took me roughly about 8 hours to get in there. No roads, basically trails, and I went in there on the hubble, went in there many times on a hubble, before we put in proper roads and bridges. The key timeline events are shown on that. We signed an option agreement with Bengit on the Kanatuan property in '94. We started production, mining and production in 2004. The year 2003 was environmental cleanup. We spent a year cleaning up the mess that was created by irresponsible small-scale mining. We mined continuously for 4 years, 2004 through to the middle of 2008. And then we switched over. We spent 6 months building out our sulfide flotation plant and mill. And we commenced commercial operations in 2009 on the current phase of mining development at Kanatuan. The big thing that's happened to us is that an ordinance was passed recently in the province of Zamboanga del Norte. And among many other things, what it does is it is going to ban open pit mining in the province. Whoops, wrong way. I'm going to show you a couple of slides. Kanatuan before what? Well, it's before we got involved. And when I came to Kanatuan, there were approximately 15,000 illegal small-scale miners, and they were wreaking havoc, on the landscape. You can see a couple of the pictures there that we show. Kanatuan Mountain, as it's called, was largely denuded, and I've got a little bit of a blow up on the right side there, and you can see the kinds of operations that were being conducted by the small-scale miners. Largely rod mill operations. And this, obviously, are before we got involved. And we, despite all the challenges that we had, which I'll talk about in a moment, we had a lot. We have stayed the course in Kanatuan and in the Philippines, for that matter, largely because of the tremendous support we've had over the years by the national government. A couple more slides. What the small-scale miners were doing is they were, I said, rod mill operations. They were literally pumping large amounts of tailings material, into the streams. With any kind of rainfall or runoff or whatever, this material would go into the streams, and cyanide and mercury. And when we started our operation, the cleanup operation in 2003, there were huge amounts of material that were being dumped, toxic material dumped into the streams. One of the things that was rampant in those days was you had young children. And those kids were being literally slave labor, being forced into mining, aiding in the mining operation, with their families. They had no access to basic education. And they were generally laborers, very poorly paid. This is just a child, an example of a 12-year-old child here, showing, who's shown unloading goods. By stark contrast, Kanatuan, with our involvement, has changed dramatically. This slide essentially shows the operation. Kanatuan is not a huge operation by any stretch of the imagination. It's a volcanogenic massive sulfide deposit, and we start off with roughly 3 million tons of reserves. We've since increased that on the initial ore body, and we see all kinds of potential to increase it even more. We've made several discoveries in the immediate vicinity of the ore body, and we expect that there will be other discoveries made such that the mine life at Kanatuan will greatly exceed our initial estimates. Anyway, just looking at this slide, if you go around a circle there, clockwise, upper left is the pit. It's a very shallow open pit. A plant, we have a very standard plain Jane sulfide flotation plant. Process, we produce copper and zinc concentrates. The product that we generate goes down by truck basically every day down to warehouses that we have in Chocon and also in the port of Santa Maria. And those concentrates are loaded onto ships and taken away approximately every 6 months. And those ships head off to their markets. Next slide just basically shows a collage here of different things. The upper left, this is flying into Canatuan, which we did recently with the Canadian ambassador. We've got we disturb, a very small amount of ground, with our operation. The pit itself really only covers about 31 hectares. Upper right here, just some of the community and other pictures of the community. Again, pictures of the community as it exists today at Canatuan. Children from the Canatuan area go to school, and they go to school to learn and play. Canadian ambassador told me he was absolutely struck by how happy the kids were, the kids that he actually talked to, at the schools. So we've done a lot, and I'll talk about that briefly before I get into the meat of why I'm here. Before I do that, I want to talk about what we had to contend with. And I've got actions and attacks, allegations and actors. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about all this. The point of the matter is that we were the target for literally everybody. We were the first foreign mining company to actually put up an operation after the Mining Act of 1995. And because of that, because of the relatively low activity that occurred, at that period of time in the mid-90s, we were the target. Everybody NGO, it seemed, was after us. And so we had to face a lot of NGO attacks, and, we've become quite used to having to deal with that kind of thing. Again, we stayed the course in the Philippines because of the national government support. Again, this is just a blow-up, an aerial shot, and you can see our operation. I don't have a pointer here that I can point to, but there's a tailings dam in the immediate foreground, and the pit itself is off to the left there in the background. So what have we accomplished? Next slide basically shows that we've got strong Indigenous leadership support. When we got in there, the community was divided. We had a council of elders consisting of roughly 30 members. The large majority, 28 of the 30, were supportive of us. 2 of them weren't. And the 2 of them that weren't, we spent a lot of time over the years bringing the community together, assisting, facilitating, I guess is the right word, the bringing of the community together. Today, there is strong support for TVI, and there's certainly strong support for the benefits of mining. Next slide here basically shows some of the things that we do. We've got a mini hospital in the upper left. We've got a number of things, a number of social programs that we're heavily engaged in. Obviously, health is one of the key ones. We're engaged in sustainable livelihood projects. And this gets to an important point for me and for our company, and that is that we're committed to leaving Canatuan if we were to leave Canatuan, and I don't see that happening for a long time in spite of the ordinance. But if we were to leave Canatuan, our goal is to leave the community in a state such that it can operate very nicely without us. In other words, they will be far better off than they were when we came in. When we came in, you had a lot of Savannah, and that's the name of the tribe down there, members who were working in that illegal mining operation, and they were in pretty desperate straits. We put up, under our social development program, clean water filtration systems in the impact barangays around Canatuan. As I mentioned, the mini hospital, and we're providing health care for literally everybody in the region on a free basis. Next slide shows a number of things that we're doing. Health and sanitation, I've mentioned that. Responsible education. So far, we've built 6 schools, and we have a program to build schools in the impact barangays around Canatuan. We currently have 2,500 students, and we have 56 high school graduates and 48 college scholarships that have been given. So we have 48 scholars who are in the college system. What's interesting here is that we've got a lot of kids that were previously not going to school and getting any education, and now they are. We're in the process of building out a high school. We've got a high school down there. When we came in and started this program in 2004, we started from ground zero. So these graduates, that I'm talking about, are the product of coming through the school system that we put up. Infrastructure, I mentioned to you when I came into Canatuan in 93, I came in on the back of a hubble. And the reason being is that I came in on logging trails, not roads, and crossed streams, literally forded the streams to get into this place. Since we've been there, we've built infrastructure. We've connected the east side of the peninsula to the west side. Shokon was isolated when we came in. You had to go in there literally by boat. Road was built up toward the capital, the prologue of capital of Zamboanga del Norte, and so we were able to go that way. But it took many hours, to go anywhere in that area. We put up roughly 85 kilometers of road, either improved it or built it, and we put in 4 bridges and a large spillway. We maintain the road system in that area. The province, gratuitously, as soon as we got the road built, put up a sign saying, this is a provincial road. We built it, we paid for it, and we maintain it. Province doesn't spend a nickel on this. Sustainable livelihood, we're focused on sustainability, economics and social well-being of community, including microfinance, technical skills, training, and apprenticeship programs. We've got a very active program in sustainable livelihood. We support the community through a royalty. We actually give the community a 1.5% royalty, and that's 50% more than is mandated by law. We, for the impact, barangays have already mentioned, we've been putting in water systems, and there are many other things that we're doing. Down in the port of Santa Maria, where we take our concentrates and load them onto ships, we built a Santa Maria water system. We built a number of roads in that area, basically farm to market. We've engaged the community. We're putting in a school right now at Busikon. We've also got a project there. We're building a fishing boat for them, because that's their main source of income down there. On the environmental side, TVI is totally committed to the environment. When we came in, sort of native trees have been cut down willy-nilly. A lot of the native species, animals, monkeys, that sort of thing, just weren't present. I'm happy to tell you, with all the remediation, rehabilitation work that we've been doing, and we're doing that progressively, that's all coming back. I'm being told by the natives down there, the IPs, that many of the species which they enjoyed before illegal mining started are now back in numbers. Watershed management. We monitor the watershed as we must. We have more than 25 locations which are subject to daily, weekly, and quarterly water quality monitoring. Reclamation and rehabilitation. This slide's a little out of date. It should be 260,000 trees. We have put in way more trees, than were there when we came in. We're bringing in a number of species, that had died off. They were cut. These are exotic species that were cut by the legal miners. Tailings management. We put up 4 world-class tailings dams, and I'll show you a picture one in a moment. And 3 of these we're not using anymore, and we're reclaiming them. Monitoring programs, we've got those set up. We're monitored by third parties. Research programs, we've got a number of those that are on the go as well. The one thing that TVI has been for a number of years, literally since we started operating in 2004, is totally transparent. We have nothing to hide. We bring in and invite anybody who wants to come. We don't restrict anybody. And I've often wondered about the saneness of that policy because, with an open door policy, guess what? You get a lot of NGOs who are anti-mining, and we got to deal with them. And, it's interesting how over the years, these guys or gals used to come in and they'd write up things and create, all kinds of foul stories. What I note with great interest is that in the last, 3, 4, 5 years, the frequency with which NGOs are coming in has almost gone down to zero, and we're not being attacked, like we were. And if we're NGOs in the crowd, this is not an invitation for you to now come in and attack us, okay? We're proud of what we do. I think it was Leo mentioned that, that we received a number of awards here. And, recently at PEMC, we were given a number of awards. The MGB declared us the best of the best. And I want to point out that, from a safety standpoint, we've got a tremendous track record, as I'll show you in a moment. We've had no fatalities. This past year, literally last month, we received a number of awards. We received the Titanium Award for Excellence in Environmental Management, the Safest Mining Operation, Safest Surface Mining Operation, and Safest Mineral Processing in the concentrate category. Now, this picture shows the awards, 3 of the awards, together with the team, TVI team, that actually was present to receive them. This next slide basically speaks to safety and employer awards. The Dole, Department of Labor and Employment, in May of 2000, recognized us and gave us an award. 2010, we received similar awards to what we got this year. We got better awards this year, but they were similar to what we got this year in the safety and environment category. The Department of Labor and Employment and the Rotary Club of Zamboanga City and Zamboanga Peninsula, the Industrial Peace Council, has given us an award. The Philippine Bureau of Working Conditions Award was given to us by the Department of Labor. We have over 6 million man-hours worked with only one LTA, lost time incident. And we've got 4 million man-hours worked with no lost time incidents. And I don't care where you are in the world, that is it's a tremendous track record. Next slide kind of is a summary of what we've done here. Our contribution to the economy. We've provided all of the following. And the key thing is that we've assisted the municipality of Shocon moving from a 4th class to a 1st class municipality. The mayor and the Sigunian in the municipality are tickled pink with TVI, and they're extremely concerned, with what's going on right now. Their big fear, the mayor came to see me the other day, his big fear is that if we go away, his community will revert back to being, a 4th rank type community. This is very much counter to some of the bloody studies that I've been reading here and seeing, that are being put out by the anti-mining groups, saying that mining basically degrades, the municipalities. That isn't the case. We are doing a lot, in the community. The next slide basically shows you numbers, and these are kind of interesting. What I've done is I've shown right back to 2004, which is when we started our operation. And I didn't put in 2003. 2003 was a no revenue year for us. And the reason being is we were spending a lot of money cleaning up the bloody mess it was created by the illegal, irresponsible, small-scale mining activities. If you look at the 5 rows I've got there, you'll see the kinds of taxes we paid, royalties to the community, the SDMP, business permits, and real property taxes. Since we started there, it's a $500 million, pesos, a significant amount. The key thing that's missing with these numbers, to really talk about the impact, is the amount of money we spend every year in our operating, budget. You can see, for instance, in 2011, that's really only 10 months, that's to the end of October, we spent $2.1 billion. That's our operating budget. And what does that mean? These are monies that we spend in the operation down there at Canatuan. And the monies that we're spending, most of that is going into the local community. It's going in for a variety of things. I mean, we're hiring people and we're hiring contractors, et cetera, et cetera. Look at the CapEx row there. You can see the amount of money that we spent. The big expenditure, we've spent a total of 2.6 billion pesos. And so there's been a lot of money that's been spent, in that area as well. And that largely is going into the community as well. Now, it's interesting to look at these numbers in perspective of the Zamboanga del Norte provincial, this is the annual provincial budget. We're told that their budget runs around 800 million pesos a year. So you compare that number to the numbers that I'm showing you here, and you begin to get an appreciation for how significant, we are to this whole thing. Now, what I want to do now is switch gears. Told you in spades what we're doing and the accomplishments and the benefits that we bring. And I want to talk about one specific challenge, and that is this new ordinance, that Zamboanga del Norte has brought in. And, of course, this is the second one, the first one being the one that was brought in South Cotabato that's affecting the Tampakan, or could potentially affect the Tampakan operation. And I want to tell you, because you're going to learn this very soon, the province next to us, Sibolgai, is bringing in an ordinance as well. And I guess my message to you is that we've got to do something about this, not just TVI, and we are, and I'll show you how we're doing it. But, this is a great concern. We're facing a potential domino effect in this country, unless certain things happen. So what's the ordinance all about? I'm going to give you the legal side of the ordinance and what's in that, and then I want to talk about, what's really behind it. The ordinance was approved by the provincial board, by the Sangguniang. Main things are it bans open pit mining, but expressly permits small scale mining. Surprise, surprise, and mining by tunneling. It gives current open pit mining operations 1 year to operate, after which they have to cease operations and become completely rehabilitated. After 60 days, it requires existing open pit operation, like ours, to have totally curtailed any siltation, erosion, and mud flows. The ordinance, in effect, gives the governor of the province effective control over all mining, and it's draconian. The governor is entitled to issue cease and desist orders to seize mining assets as well as inventory of products produced, and of course, throw management in jail. It's really serious. It requires that for any new application for mining, this is obviously non-open pit applications, for mining tenements, the governor must give his own clearance of consultation, and there must be approval by all LGUs, including the province. In other words, existing 2 out of 3 goes to 3 out of 3, as far as the province is concerned. Also levies a 10% environmental fund on new projects. Next slide basically shows the fact that this is invalid and unconstitutional. The ordinance violates the due process, equal protection, and non-impairment of contract clauses in the 87 Constitution. It's contrary to the applicable provisions of the Local Government Code and the Mining Act, and runs counter to the public policies espoused in these laws. The ordinance would adversely affect the successful environmental protection enhancement programs and the positive socioeconomic impact that TVIRD operations has had on the community. Okay, so what does it really mean? That's what it says. What's behind it? What's it really all about? Zamboanga del Norte is run by a warlord. His name is Halosos. Same guy that was was given a pardon, and released from jail. He is the puppeteer. He controls the governor. And the governor, is the guy under this ordinance who's given these broad, sweeping powers. Now, this guy has got a big vision for the peninsula. His big vision is taking over control politically of a number of provinces. He's got control of Zamboanga del Norte. He's recently taken control of the last election of Sibugay. And they're the ones that are going to come out with the next ordinance. He's got his sights set on Zamboanga City. And he's got his sights set on Sur. And he's behind this. He's interested, I say he and all the people that are involved with him, his relatives, etc., they're interested in essentially gaining control of mining in the province. They want to be in a position where nothing moves, nothing happens, unless he says. And of course, the flip side of that, nothing happens unless there's a payoff. And that's, people don't want to talk about that, but that's reality. And that's what's going on. That's what's behind this ordinance. It's all dressed up in, we're going to protect the environment. Bullshit. We're not going to protect the environment. That's my message to you. We're going to protect the environment, as responsible miners. But the province and the people behind this thing have no interest in protecting the environment. This is all about creating a number of permits that I have to approve. It's all about saying, okay, you want a permit? Guess what? You're going to pay me. And those monies don't necessarily go in